In Star Wars, many Jedi as well as Sith receive accolades for a variety of different reasons or achievements, such as Darth Bane, who is recognized for restructuring the Sith at a fundamental level with the Rule of Two, or there are more so direct declarations, such as Revan in the teaser for the Knights of the Old Republic remake that is truly never coming out, being touted as the greatest Sith in generations. Declarations akin to the latter example are very prevalent throughout the prequel era that encapsulates episodes 1 through 3 as well as the Clone Wars, and if I had to guess, it's probably because this can be considered a time when the Jedi Order was in its prime, at least out of the history we are privy to in the main 9 films, when there are 3 Jedi in particular who are held in high regard during this chapter, being Yoda, Mace Windu, and Anakin Skywalker. From the Phantom Menace all the way up until Revenge of the Sith, the trio share a few opponents alongside numerous statements that would imply or just outright assert that they have some sort of relativity to one another, and are commonly cited as being in the upper echelons of Force users at this period in the series history. So much so that even esteemed Jedi like Obi-Wan Kenobi concede inferiority to his former Padawan Anakin, with Yoda towards the end of episode 3 telling Obi-Wan that he is in no position to go near Darth Sidious, and Lucas later stating in the Star Wars episode 3 book that only Mace or the Grandmaster Yoda stood any chance against Sidious. Canonicity in Star Wars can be a big deal when it comes to these sorts of comparisons, or really just any discussions regarding the series in general, but for the purposes of this video, I will be sticking to sources and information that correlate to legends as opposed to Disney canon. I'm not sure how much Star Wars content I plan to make in the future, but if it does become a mainstay here on the channel, the differences between the two continuities may be something to take a closer look at for future comparisons. Hailed as one of the most revered members of the Council during this period, Mace Windu was a Jedi known for his strict dedication to the Order and its teachings, whose words held great weight and demanded respect. To go hand in hand with Mace's seniority among the Council, however, is his remarkable strength, as not only is he known as a skilled lightsaber duelist, but he is recognized as one of the best the Order has ever seen. Mace is famed for his sole mastery over a variation of Form 7 Juyo known as Vaapad, which, to elaborate, Vaapad is a style of lightsaber combat that could just as easily be described as a state of mind, where its users fight with full ferocity, allowing themselves to enjoy the fight and the thrill of winning while embracing the anger of their opponents, all of which could be said to contradict traditional Jedi teachings. This is why the use of Vaapad has been described to dangerously tread the line of the dark side, resulting in Mace and potentially his former Padawan, now Master Deepa Baliba, being the only ones permitted to employ the form. However, the Revenge of the Sith novelization and many guides over the years have made it apparent that Vaapad is far from Mace Windu's only gift. Mace's greatest on-screen accomplishment is likely his defeat of Darth Sidious, and although many in the 2 decades since Episode 3's release adamantly insist that Palpatine held back or threw his fight with the Jedi Master, many guides alongside George Lucas himself have gone on to directly reject these arguments, stating that without the interference of the Chosen One, the grand scheming of the Sith would have been for naught, which is crazy to think that Mace could have directly prevented the fall of the Order and the Republic, as well as the events of the entire original trilogy just in this moment here. Regardless, there are few other statements of note surrounding this encounter that we'll get more into along our comparison. Someone who needs no introduction, Grandmaster Yoda has repeatedly been stated to be the wisest member of the Council, possessing the most experience over the course of his lifetime of a millennium, dedicating that life to meditating and learning the ways of the Force, eventually making him the only one powerful enough to contend with the newly revealed Darth Sidious, pushing the Sith to draw on all his dark side power to the point of fighting underhandedly in order to send the Grandmaster into retreat. In spite of his small stature, or perhaps because of it, Yoda is just as skilled in lightsaber combat as he is with the Force, consistently matching or besting those proclaimed to be some of the greatest duelists in the galaxy, such as Mace or even Count Dooku, during both Attack of the Clones as well as the Legends Dark Rendezvous novel that follows Yoda conversing with Dooku in an attempt to find peace in the midst of the Clone Wars. Yoda employs mastery of lightsaber styles like Form 4 Ataru, characterized by its acrobatics that allow for fast-paced aggressive strikes from all directions, mixing well with his compact and rather nimble size. While skilled in lightsaber combat to the point it's been said he's mastered each and every one of its styles, his greatest strength may very well be just how in tune with the Force Yoda actually is, represented by his reverence for the Force shown in the original trilogy, or the fact he can readily absorb Force lightning from Dooku and Sidious later on with the use of Tuta Menace, things one would no doubt come to expect from a centuries experienced wizened Grandmaster. Anakin Skywalker, similarly to Yoda, has a long history of being one of the most powerful characters we've seen in the entire series, and this comes as no surprise when looking at the circumstances surrounding his birth, as it is heavily heavily implied within Legends that the machinations of Darth Plagueis that involved experimenting with midichlorians in order to create life as well as extend his own caused the Force to revolt against him with the virgin pregnancy of Shmi Skywalker, birthing the Chosen One prophecy to one day bring balance to the Force. This, however, leads into a larger discussion about what can only be described as the utter ambivalence or impartial nature of the Force, allowing one side to gain power when the other is too prevalent and never leaning too heavily into either's favor, as it could be said that Anakin did indeed bring balance to the Force by spending half of his life in the light side as a kind young boy who realized his dream of becoming a Jedi Knight, and the other half as the ruthless Darth Vader that Plagueis caught visions of shortly before his death. A focal point integral to Anakin's character, however, is his egregiously evident arrogance paired with a lack of control over his emotions. The 2D Clone Wars hit the nail on the head by saying it has never been Anakin's skills that were called into question, but rather his maturity, and it's easy to see that this is a prominent issue when looking at situations like his loss to Obi-Wan on Mustafar, or the fact that Anakin is actually implied to be at the power of Yoda over the course of Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, but does not have the experience to properly wield this power, which is further demonstrated in Episode 2 when Dooku manages to get the better of Anakin despite his strength, yet later on during the events of Revenge of the Sith, the novelization describes Anakin accepting his emotions and turning them against Dooku in such a way that winning against him simply becomes a mere decision for Skywalker to make. Regardless of these setbacks and his many flaws at this point in his life as a young Jedi, Anakin is described to be as strong in the Force as anyone to ever sit on the Council, or stronger in the Force than any Jedi Yoda has known in his hundreds of years, making it no real mystery as to why what Anakin is capable of at his full potential to be a hotly debated topic among fans. While each of these prominent prequel period Jedi are strong in ways unique to themselves, there is evidence to definitively place one over another. To start off, I'll likely have to put Yoda over Mace when looking at several different statements spread across guides, novels, or even those straight from Master Windu, stating that the Grandmaster is many things, but he himself is not Yoda's equal in either peace or war. The Revenge of the Sith visual guide states that Yoda represents the full power of the light side against Sidious, known to be the most powerful, wisest member of the Council, who is more than a match for any foe, with Mace more so consistently being stated to be almost equal, or rather just outright second, to the Grandmaster.
We've not seen Mace fight yet, and we know that he's second only to Yoda.
Since I'm supposedly the second baddest person in the universe, I dispense people pretty quickly.
It could be said that some statements putting Yoda above Master Windu have certain pitfalls or caveats, such as the visual guide statement saying Yoda is the full power of the light side coming after Mace's death. The arguments that Mace is stronger than Yoda are there, but they primarily come in the form of comparing the two Jedi Masters' shared battle against Darth Sidious. While we established prior that Mace did in fact definitively beat Sidious, many guides state despite the Grand Master putting forth his most valiant effort, he ultimately lost to the Sith Lord. On the surface, this would seem as if it's enough to place Windu above Yoda. However, the junior novelization of Revenge of the Sith states that Order 66 paired with Anakin's growing descent into darkness were actively growing Sidious's dark side power, meaning the Sidious that Yoda fought is stronger than the one previously defeated by Mace. To ensure that the champion of the Order gets all of his due credit, however, Obi-Wan once again reiterates that those sent to apprehend Sidious, which includes Mace alongside Kit Fisto, Agen Kolar, and Sashi Tin, to be four of the greatest swordsmen the Order has ever produced. In addition to this, guides have told us that this spinning scream performed by the Sith Lord in the beginning of the encounter is actually the application of a dark side confusion haze that may very well have nerfed Mace and the three masters in his company, which leads into something else worth taking a glance at here, and that's Mace's use of Vaapad during this sequence. While Vaapad is commonly described to channel the darkness of its practitioner, the Revenge of the Sith novelization also makes it apparent that it uses the dark side power of its opponents as well, stating, Mace accepted the furious speed of the Sith Lord, drew the shadow's rage and power into his inmost center, and let it fountain out again, reflecting the fury upon its source as a lightsaber redirects a blaster bolt. The fighting was effortless for him now. He let his body handle it without the intervention of his mind, which slid along the circuit of dark power, tracing it back to its limitless source. While this in and of itself is remarkable, we should also closely examine the language surrounding Mace's use of Vaapad against Sidious, as the novelization proclaims Mace was cutting loose without any Jedi restraint. He was deep in it now, submerged in Vaapad, swallowed by it. He no longer truly existed as an independent being. This to me makes it sound as if Mace doesn't normally fight this way, meaning that all of these statements prior putting him second to the Grandmaster potentially wouldn't be including Vaapad, or at the very least its strenuous use against Sidious, making Mace Windu all the more impressive. How the Grandmaster stands against the Chosen One, however, is another matter entirely, as the young Skywalker has no shortage of statements akin to Yoda's about his standing up until the end of Revenge of the Sith, described as the most powerful Jedi of his or perhaps any generation, the fastest, strongest, unstoppable warrior, an invaluable combination of boldness and grace, the best there is at what he does, and the best there ever has been. The making of Episode 3 again declares that you'd have to be either Yoda or Mace to compete with Sidious. However, it goes on to state that if Anakin hadn't gotten all beat up, referring to the results of the battle on Mustafar, he could have in fact beaten the Emperor. While I'm not sure if I completely agree with this, since why would Yoda send Obi-Wan to fight someone stronger than the Sidious he previously assessed Obi-Wan was too weak to stand against, it still portrays that Lucas himself holds Anakin at a level above Yoda and Mace. Anakin's performance against his Sith predecessor Count Dooku likewise lends credence to his superiority over the Masters. Once he is able to take control of his emotions to use them as he uses his sword, he puts the Count on the losing defense, with each parry costing him more and more force power than he had used to throw Kenobi, and each block aging him a decade, not even attempting to strike back against Skywalker's ferocity. This decisive victory against the Count puts certain statements saying Dooku would outclass nearly any opponent except Yoda, or that he would have been a master on par with Yoda had he not left the Order, into perspective, paired with thoughts from the Grandmaster himself saying that Mace Windu may be the only other Jedi who could stand on neutral ground with Dooku, pretty clearly putting the three on equal footing, or saying that Mace is just behind Dooku and Yoda, with Anakin beyond the three of them entirely. An interesting point to make in Mace's favor would again be his use of Vaapad. The Revenge of the Sith novelization actually portrays Anakin nearly drawing on Mace out of anger during its depiction of the iconic scene where he is denied the rank of Master, taunting Mace in his mind to Vaapad what was coming next. This to me suggests that Mace may actually be able to use Vaapad to weaponize the dark side energy that resides within Anakin, though how effective it would be at closing the gap between the two is debatable. If asked to directly rank them, I'd have to place Anakin towards the top of the three, with Yoda following and Mace not far behind in third place, which rings true with rankings given by the staff of the films as well. And even if you think one is stronger than the other, etc. and so forth, I believe it's fairly agreeable to have them in the same tier without one greatly outclassing the others by a considerable margin. But that's about all I really have regarding the topic for you today. As I said much earlier on in the video, I'm not exactly sure how much Star Wars content I plan to make in the future, so I won't ask for your subscription based on that, but it may still be worth it if you want to be notified of what I get up to in the future, such as when I upload or stream. Like the video to support both the channel and myself, as well as let me know that this is the type of content you want to see. Comment down below if I missed anything or with any suggestions you may have for the future. Thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your day.